So welcome to this third chapter and episode of I and the BIM, a blog and webinar series by Stefan Larsson. I am the founder and CEO of BIMobject. So in chapter 3, we're going to talk about the cloud's ability as a central data center to actually handle what we call dynamic properties. And these dynamic properties are intelligent in a way where they reflect on the actual language spoken by the user. So this is something we will demonstrate how this is handled. So you actually can have different values in different languages. So this is necessary to do as we are a global platform. Internet is truly a global place. Building product manufacturers sell in very many different countries. Very often it's the same product, but the product can have different values. It can have different links to technical descriptions and such. So it's a must to have an intelligent system that handles this. And this is something we will demonstrate. So today the 500,000 registered users speak different languages and they need to have it served in different languages. So same property but different value. So we introduced dynamic properties as the only portal in the world for quite some years ago, and this was a necessity as most of the other platforms or download sites, I would say, are mainly local. We are one of the few that are truly global, and that's why we need to handle this. So the beauty of this is that as we have externalized all the property sets and properties in our single source of truth database, we can handle additional values for different languages. So it means that it's another dimension. We can have tables of different values set for the same property name. So we're going to show you now, or I'm going to show you how this works. So actually what I am done, I am running two web browsers, Chrome and Safari. So first of all, I'm logged in here and I have set my language as UK British English. That's why we see a neat picture of London. So now what happens that everything what we do, it reacts as if I am English speaking. So it's very sensitive to that, and that's kind of normal for an intelligent cloud system or platform that it can change a language. But we will look at this in a little bit more detail. So I have chosen a Roca product from a Spanish manufacturer Roca, and it's a beautiful spa. So what you now can notice is that all these property names are in English. The title is in English. And also, of course, there's links. So let's say, for instance, you would like to know and get the installation instructions. These are now picked up by the system. So these links to the actual PDF, which have everything in English. So the interesting thing here is that by doing this in a proper way, we can actually work as a full-fledged PIM system, because this is really what a PIM system does, handles the information and manage it for products. So this is how it looks for me. Now let's do this. I will actually now change into Safari. Now I'm logged in as a kind of James Bond, and in this case James Bond is a Spanish James Bond. This means that the portal and the platform now immediately reacts to me in Spanish, and everything you see now is Spanish. So what we will do now, we will look for Roca. We will look for the same product, and I will show you first of all how it actually looks different even on the property sets site. So we'll just let it load, and let's go in and find Roca. We getting the Fabricantes, and we have 873 product families, but as I know already, here is our famous one. So what you can see now is that Roca actually decided not to change this into Spanish, which they can, and I will soon show that. automatically our system is now translating and having this as a table database. So Familia del Producto is a standard. What's now interesting for both the user and for the manufacturer is that the description and also all the links now can have intelligent values or dynamic properties. It means that this installation URL can be different for a Spanish user than for an English user. It means that it can actually go and download a specific Spanish installation instruction for this particular product. And we will show you a little bit how this is done. So as far as the account setting, what happened now is that since I'm logged in as another user and I was set to Spanish, it will automatically detect my Spanish. And there is different ways you can override this, and what's kind of interesting and good to know is that we even embed this in the URL to make it very, very intelligent. So if you want to send this product to someone in a specific language, you can actually see that it says EN, like English. If I would change this, and I now know the code to ES, I actually force the system into writing it in Spanish. So even in the URL, there is a recognition of the actual language. So let's go in and actually not do this on the spa. We will actually use our very famous BIMobject Live Mosquito demo barrack to demonstrate that. So going into the actual information in the database. So again, we are now going in the cloud solution as a project manager, product manager, or information manager. And what's kind of interesting now when you reach product information in this external property set is that this is the title. There is also the 22 languages here listed, and this is where I will now show you how actually you can do this manually. There's also other ways to automate this. We can do a bulk import of the data and actually add all these different language values automatically. As example, we can add that from a BIM system. You now have a technical description, there is no specs, and you also have different type of installation instructions and links. All these data sets are now connected to the English language. If we do a change, let's say we do the Spanish, now it's Spanish text. And just to make and show you how this works, we will do a little funny thing. We'll just use Google Translate, and I actually did it to Swedish. So I have made a text, I copy this text, I go back, and now actually to build a Swedish values, I can paste this here. And this means now that there is a Swedish one. I can also write that this is a barack. So now I have a Swedish text also, and now I can save. So it means that all these dynamic properties are on particular properties that have the need of being language dependent. And this is very much connected to installation instructions, product information, specification texts, and these kind of things. So if we now have a look at the barack, so we can go for it here. So we search it for it, here it is. If I would now force everything into Swedish, just to see what I have done. So now I did a manual force on the site. It now actually says a barack for byggarbetsplatser. And also if we go in and look at the description, this description is now in Swedish. So we can go over to Safari again and look at our Spanish friends, and we go to the barack demo, and you can now see that also the values here is now in Spanish. So the beauty of this is that this is a lot of information, a lot of data. It can be a lot of work of updating this, but since the whole single source of truth database is active, the interesting thing, obviously, when you have components in a project, and just imagine you're running a project with a BIM server where people actually speak different languages. So in the BIMobject app, we actually have our own information button, which takes information about the components you have in your model. And the interesting thing with this is that this is externalized. So what happens here is that now we actually go back to the server and get information which is server based. And I will just make a forced entry here. If I would actually be, let's say I'm a French user, this is now in French. And of course, if I would be registered as a French, it will automatically get my own information here in my own language. So this is also a very interesting way of bridging language gaps, where you can actually get and retrieve information about the products actually in your own native language. Even if you have made a model, let's say in India, in English, you could actually get all the information in French. So especially in projects where a lot of consultants are involved from different regions of the world, this will be quite amazing functionality. The other thing is obviously that this is very dynamic, and this gives a huge possibility to actually limit the amount of objects you need to publish on a cloud platform. Since all these objects are so much more intelligent and using these dynamic properties, you can keep that to a minimum. The other thing is that if you publish in US English or British English, you can at any point of time start to add more data, because as you have seen in chapter 2, we can also update with new things as we go along. And of course, you can keep a lot of these things external. You do not need to have everything in the objects. You can keep it externalized. So really the benefits for the BIM user is obviously that you can have your own local language and in most of the components and products, even if these manufacturers come from abroad and international companies. And this is a huge benefit for you. The same is, of course, if you get projects from other countries, you can easily get them translated automatically from the system. Actually not translated, but it's retrieving new data. The building product manufacturers, of course, have even bigger benefit, because this means that they can centralize all their information in one place and let that be distributed to a global audience. And that's of course also part of the BIMobject Cloud vision, that we will have one single system taking care of all building product information, regardless of language or country. And this can be easily updated and maintained, so it's fully future-proof, and it gives better knowledge and better information to everybody. So this is quite unique, and we hope you enjoyed chapter 3, which was all about how we handle languages in the BIMobject Cloud. Thank you very much.